when you think you're at your lowest is absolutely an opportunity for you to create your own reality. And I'm living proof of it to this day. We look at that now as such a gift. And when we do, it has healed that beautiful young woman and that beautiful couple and that beautiful moment in our lives. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. Hello, my friends. This is Tarryn MacCarthy, and I am so excited to be with you today because today is going to be a great day. Today, we are talking about the power of transforming your life and turning the worst day into your best. How to find that perspective and how to shift your attention and your focus into empowerment from a place of feeling hopeless, frustrated, and limited, because it's within you. And today we're talking about stepping back into your power. You know, I've talked about my first orthodontic practice many times on this podcast, and many of you have heard the story. My first ortho practice was a complete bust. It really was. It was hard from day one. It was so difficult to make a profit in that practice. I was insecure. It was so difficult. I was so naive to the power I had within me, and I was feeling like a victim of my circumstances every single day. It was right around the 2008 collapse of the economy, and I blamed the economy. I blamed my youthful appearance. Yes. I constantly was being mistaken for the hygienist or the assistant because I was the youngest one in my whole team. All my team members were much older than me, and everyone always thought I was the hygienist, all my new patients. And so I blamed ageism. I blamed the fact that my husband was not making any money at the time, and all the stress of the financial burden of my family was on me. I blamed the fact that I had 2 babies, and it was very difficult to balance running a practice and nursing 2 infants and changing diapers and navigating the stress of not getting enough sleep at night. I had so many things outside of me to blame. And what I was missing was the power within me to change everything. My external circumstances were telling me constantly that I wouldn't be able to make it because I had so many things stacked up against me. I bought this practice. It was what I thought an awesome opportunity. It was just the right size for my first practice. It wasn't too big. It was in my house. It was one of those split levels. Can you imagine the split level ranches? And downstairs was the practice and upstairs was my home. And since my husband was not around, he was a resident at the time in a 6-year program, so it was going to be many years that I wasn't going to see him, I was able to have a family and have a practice. So on the outside, it looked great. And I saw it was a well-established practice. It was making just enough, the right amount of money. I thought it was going to be great. And it was so hard. I blamed the practice I bought. I blamed the transition consultant who helped me find this practice. Oh my gosh, guys, there was literally dip tanks to process the radiographs. And I blamed the chemicals in my house. I had so many things that I was angry at and frustrated at. And I remember this one day. And I want to bring you into this day because it's an important day. It was probably, I have several days that I feel like I could put my finger on and say this was my lowest day. This was one of the lowest days. And for some reason, can't remember where my children were because I was either with patients or I was with my children. There was very little time when I had space from both of them. I don't know if the nanny was watching or maybe they were asleep. And I was sitting in the car with my stepmom and my dad, and I was just crying. I was at my wit's end. I was bawling, crying to them. And I was saying, I just feel like I have no options left. this is so hard. I am so exhausted. I am so overwhelmed. And the practice is barely making enough money to pay the bills every month. I am feeling like I don't even remember who I am. I look in the mirror. I don't even know the woman that's looking back at me. I feel so much stress and burden financially to pay the bills every month and to, keep this family afloat. I feel like every night my kids need me. They're babies. Don't have another option. This isn't fun, and I'm so exhausted and overwhelmed. And my husband right now is not able to stand up and rescue me. I even said that. I remember saying, I just wish someone would come and save me. I wish that there would be some solution. And at this point, guys, I had been to financial advisors. I'd been to accountants. I thought a lot of the burden was financial. My fears were very much financial. And I didn't see a way out. I didn't see a solution. I kept looking for a solution. And that day in the car, crying, literally saying the words, I wish someone would come and rescue me. And I remember the answers my dad and my stepmom were giving. They were all suggestions of things I'd already tried. And oh my gosh, that was so frustrating. And if I am speaking to you right now and you've gone to someone and you've been like, what do you suggest? And they tell you things you've already tried and you want to scream, right? Have you ever had that feeling where you're like, don't you think I've already tried that thing? Don't you think I've already thought about that and it didn't work? Don't you think I've already tried that idea? And the more they were suggesting things to me, the more angry. And honestly, under the anger was fear. Because I thought, oh my gosh, they're really just giving me the same answers that everyone else is giving me. Guys, we went to a marriage counselor because you can imagine at this point, when you're that low and stressed out, everything starts failing. Everything starts failing. So my marriage was definitely on the rocks. I was asking something of my husband he couldn't give. I felt like I needed saving and he could not save me. He was not physically able because he was in a residency program, but emotionally he wasn't there yet either. He wasn't confident in himself yet. He didn't think he could rescue anyone. There was a lot of personal work that Killian needed to do. So he was not available for me. And so, we went to a marriage counselor around that time. And I remember even the marriage counselor, the answer the marriage counselor gave us at the time was, just stick this out right now because it's going to get better. Right now, you're in a really difficult place financially and in terms of the residency, and the babies are really young. Just hang in there. Even the marriage counselor didn't have a solution for us. We literally left there thinking, oh my gosh, our marriage is falling apart. And the marriage counselor did not say, hey, let's sign up for we'll see you every week or every other week. No, she was like, there's no advice I have for you right now. You literally just have to stick this out for a moment. I was so angry at everyone I went to for advice. And that day in the car, I remember feeling so angry at my stepmom and my dad because they were just giving me advice that I already heard and I'd already tried, every suggestion they made. And I had every story in my head of why all those perspectives were not possible. I had an argument or a rebuttal for every damn thing. And underneath that was this deep fear. Underneath the anger was deep fear. And it was right there in that car that I chose a huge perspective shift. When I heard myself say those words, I just wish someone would come and save me. I mean, I think I was hoping they would. I'm not sure what I thought they would do. It was not like they could bail me out financially or see my patients for me or breastfeed my kids. I'm not sure what I thought that they could do for me, but I was just desperate to go to anyone. Please, someone save me. And it was in that moment, in voicing those words, I wish someone would come and save me, that I realized I needed to save myself. And, I look at that day, I'm getting emotional thinking about it because that was the day I realized all the power was within me. All the power was within me. There was a voice that was so small that woke up that day in that car and remembered, Tarryn, you create your own reality. And I didn't know what it meant in that day. I don't think I knew what I meant in that car, but it lit a fire in me of remembering that I create my own reality and that the power was within me all along. And the reason why I'm feeling emotional today is because I know that if that hadn't happened to me, I wouldn't feel so passionately about the work that I do today. I think I'd still be, my life would have led me to empowering others. That I realized in later on when I opened up my third practice, and it was such a huge success. And I realized, wow, I don't straighten teeth. That is not what I'm very good at it. Let's say that, but it's not where my passion and my heart lies. My passion and my heart lies in empowering others. And that is why I am the business of happiness. And I give you this beautiful podcast every week. And I pour my heart into the retreats and the programs and the courses to empower women in healthcare and in dentistry to step back into their sovereignty. But I don't think I would have the same fire and dedication and passion for the work that I do had I not experienced that day in the car with my stepmom and my dad. When I was not at my very worst day, personally, feeling like I'd run out of all options. And there was really no one outside of me that was going to save me. That realization was so scary and terrifying to me in the car that day that I had run out of options. There was nothing outside of me that was going to save me. Boom, right there. That was the moment everything shifted. The moment I realized that the power was within me all along. And the important thing about transformation is the power of transformation, because in that car, in that moment, I transformed. And that was a shift in my life that started me down a completely different trajectory. A completely different trajectory financially, of actual success and abundance, a completely different trajectory of my marriage and my intimate relationship, the person I loved, and creating a place of better communication and a deeper sense of love and support for one another. That moment in the car shifted my relationship with my children and the way that I showed up for myself. And this power of transformation, of transforming your life, lies in your ability to find the light within the shadow. That is it. And that light for me was, oh my gosh, I get to save me. The shadow was, no one is coming to save you, Tarryn. And the light was, oh my gosh, that power is only within me. And to make that connection is the seed of transformation. And then to focus on the light instead of the darkness. The darkness was, I need someone to save me, and there's no one there to save me. I need to be saved. I need a solution. I need saving. That was the darkness. That's what I had been focusing on. And every morning I got up, I felt the heaviness of that pain, of that truth. It felt so true. There was a bill due every month for the practice that I purchased. There was a bill due for the mortgage of the house that I bought. There were children I needed to feed at the end of the day with my body that had been serving my patients all day long. That felt like truth. There was no one out there who was going to come and save me from those things. That felt so true, and I kept focusing on the darkness of that. I'm so exhausted. I have so much to do. There's no one who can help me. That was the darkness, and every day when I focused on the darkness, it felt heavier and heavier and heavier. And things around me were falling apart. And that moment of transformation was, holy bleep. I'm saying this word, it's my podcast. Holy shit. The only one who's going to save me is me. And in that moment, it was an empowering fire I needed to realize. I had created my own life. I had created my own hours in my practice. I had created the structure of my practice. I had created the non-existent boundaries. Remember, my practice was in my home. That was a glaring example of not having boundaries, but I had created those. And if I had created them, I could uncreate them as well. I had been the one who studied so hard to become an orthodontist. I had persevered through dental school. I had the power within me to do anything to reshape my life. And I didn't quite know what that meant, but man, that little shift was everything, turning the worst day into my best. Because in that moment, I started on a journey of learning what I was capable of and to start paying attention to what I needed and how I could save myself. I had been saving everyone else. My kids, my bank account, my parents, my patients, my team, my practice. In that moment, I realized no one's coming to save you, baby. You get to save yourself. And like I said, I didn't know what that meant yet, but that kernel was the seed that was planted. And now this is part 2, shifting my focus and attention to the light every single day with intention. And this is where our power lies, in our transformation. So if you are in a place in your life where you're looking for transformation in some aspect of your life, and it's felt so hard and so limited, I'm giving you this gift today, that your hardest day gets to be your best. And when you have that shift in perspective, to keep refocusing on the light. So what did I do? Every morning I got up and I said, oh my gosh, I get to save myself. That was the refocus. No one's coming to save me. I get to save myself. Notice that shift in perspective. I didn't keep waking up saying, no one's coming to get me. No one's coming to save me. Nope. I woke up and I started saying, I have the power to change my reality. I get to save myself. And every day that meant something small and different. One day, it meant letting go of a toxic team member. I get to save myself. I noticed the negative, heavy energy, the dense energy I felt every day I saw her. And even though my mind wanted to tell me, it's so hard to hire people, I got to save myself that day. Not buy into the stories that other people were telling me. I actually showed up for me. See, because the thing that holds us back is the beliefs that other people have given us. That's not possible. You can't afford to lose a hygienist or a team member right now because it's so hard to find them. Those are other people's beliefs, limiting us, limiting you, limiting me from taking action in the direction that we need to for ourselves. So guess what? Every morning when I woke up, I said, you know what? I get to save myself. Boom, that was one of the first decisions. This team member needs to go. I need to save myself here. Let me let go of all the doubts and fears and stories and beliefs that other people want to put on me that I've been taking on. Oh, guess what? I get to save myself. Number 2, I get to question everything coming at me and listen to my own voice. I get to save myself. I started writing myself a check because, believe it or not, at that point, I had stopped paying myself. And every month felt hard. And I was barely paying team members. And I thought, oh my gosh, I get to save myself. And I wrote myself a check that week through payroll. And guess what? There was enough money to pay the team. It actually was there. But I paid myself first. I get to save myself. I went upstairs and I had my lunch first before pumping. At the time I was pumping nursing. And what I'd usually do is I'd go up, pump, and I thought, I get to save myself. And I fed myself first that day. I sat down and I ate lunch before I went and got my babies from the babysitter, from the nanny who was staying upstairs. Before I helped the kids and fed the kids, which would have been my normal go-to. I would have run upstairs and thought, I only have so much time. Let me nurse the kids. I went up and I said, I get to save myself. And I sat down and I ate a lunch until I felt full. And then I fed my babies. Guys, these sound like small shifts, but that was the power of transformation. I started transforming my life. And guess what? I didn't become a selfish person. I actually, when I took care of myself, started to overflow with the ability to take care of others, which was my calling always. It didn't mean I had to let go of the things I cared about. It didn't turn me into a person I didn't want to be. It was me showing up for me. And the whole purpose of the story for you today is for you to recognize your own sovereignty, that you get to turn that day that feels so hard and heavy, even in retrospect. Even if you're looking back and you're like, that was the worst day. He was so awful to me. She was so terrible to me. I invite you now to recognize your power, to look at that day and see it from a new perspective. See it from a perspective of the light. What seed was planted in you on that day that now you get to shift your focus? Because believe me, I didn't see that day as my best day at the time. This is me looking at it now, but there is unequivocal truth for me around that day. And you know what's really cool about that? When we can look at a day that felt like the hardest day and recognize it now in retrospect as a moment of true liberation and a twist in the plot, a day that I actually chose a new fork in the road. I chose a new directional path. I changed timelines. The power of recognizing your worst day as your best is we actually get to heal that wound. And we no longer carry it around with us. There's actual healing of our younger self. I don't mourn for that girl anymore. I did. I carried a chip on my shoulder for a very long time. I was angry at my husband for a very long time. I was angry at life for a very long time. I was angry at myself for a very long time. And that day in the car felt heavy as hell. And now I've healed that girl in the car because I recognized that moment as a day that everything shifted. And that day became a source of empowerment because I know, I would not be the woman I am sitting here in front of this microphone today if it hadn't been for that day, if it hadn't been for that moment of crying in the car, if it hadn't been that practice that was falling apart, that hardship. Because now I have this knowing and this deep passion for caring for other women who are in the same boat. I don't think I would have had the courage to start running retreats or start a podcast and speaking my truth in a profession that's very linear minded to start talking about emotions. That takes guts. And I feel so deeply empowered because of that day, because of that practice. You know, it's so funny. I'll share with you one other really cool, beautiful awareness my husband and I had this past weekend. By the way, I'm still married to the same man. The healing of our marriage has been incredible. When I tell you I was interviewing divorce attorneys, that is the truth. And now, I am so grateful for this man. And it all was because of that really hard time that everything shifted when I stepped into my empowerment and I realized, oh my God, it's not about anything out there. The power is within me. That is why I teach what I teach now. That is why I run 10-week programs for women, dentists, and doctors to give them the power of recognizing, oh my gosh, it's within me. And how to harness that to transform their lives. That is why I create the retreats that I create. And Killian and I, we were having this conversation this weekend. We had dinner with my dad and my stepmom this past weekend. We were celebrating my dad's 77th birthday. And we were just talking about how the dinner was so great and how much my dad means to Killian and how much my stepmom means to both of us. And it's so cool because we both look back at that time so hard. And that practice that I purchased, that first one, as such a hardship, and such a burden in my life and in his. And he said, they wouldn't be married if it wasn't for that practice. And here's the little nugget I want to share with you today. That practice I purchased, I ended up fire sailing it. I didn't make very much money out of it at all. we kind of lost money on that house. There were so many financial losses, but the gifts from that experience, I could never put money on. The office manager of that practice that I purchased, she invited me to her son's high school graduation party. And it was at that party I met that woman who would become my stepmom and the love of my dad's life. They've now been married for almost 20 years. She is such a gift in my life and in my husband's life, and of course to my dad. But it would not have happened had I not purchased that practice. How could I ever put a number or a sense of wealth to that? That experience is what led me on this path to be able to share and support women who are owning businesses that feel hard and heavy now, to guide them to stepping into their sovereignty and their power, and to transform and to give them a model of you can turn it all around. When you think you're at your lowest is absolutely an opportunity for you to create your own reality. And I am living proof of it to this day. We look at that now as such a gift. And when we do, it has healed that beautiful young woman and that beautiful couple and that beautiful moment in our lives. I've gone back in time and healed them because I am so grateful. And it was the moment of stepping into my power. That gave me the gift. And, I don't love this idea of needing to get to rock bottom. I don't believe in that at all. I don't think you need to get to rock bottom. Absolutely not. But I do think that there is a beautiful possibility of taking your worst day and turning it into your best, and the healing that can happen from that. And the importance of that healing is unfathomable, because the ripple effects of healing yourself, especially as a woman, especially as a leader in healthcare, especially as a leader of your team, especially as a leader of your patient's healing, is enormous. And I want to give this to you today. You deserve that same reflection and healing. And I'm giving you this gift today to allow yourself to see the worst day as your best, because in there's a kernel, a seed of transformation that is always available to you. And all it takes is just hearing that whisper, being open to it, and then choosing every day to look towards the light, to see the power of it. And it's okay that you don't know what that means right now, but keep choosing it, because you are that powerful. And there is nothing outside of you that you ever need. You have everything within you. So celebrate that today. You are a miracle, my friend. And reminding yourself of that on a daily basis is the start of the transformation that will change your life. Because when you feel good, that is when you can do incredible, amazing things in this world. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Business of Happiness podcast. If this episode brought you new perspective and value, I invite you to subscribe so that you catch all upcoming episodes, and leave us a review. And if you know of a friend or colleague who could benefit from this perspective, share this episode with them and empower their day. For more information about the Business of Happiness and the Radical Happiness for Practitioners course, find me on www.thebizofhappiness.com. See you there.